In 1991, the iconic Star Trek franchise celebrated its 25th anniversary, marking a quarter century of boldly going where no one had gone before. As part of the celebration, Star Trek 25th Anniversary was released for several platforms, including the Nintendo Entertainment System. This game was a notable attempt to bring the beloved science fiction universe into the video game world, providing fans with a new way to experience the adventures of Captain Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the USS Enterprise crew. While the game differed significantly from its PC counterpart, it offered its own unique experience suited to the NES platform, blending action and puzzle solving with the deep lore of the Star Trek universe. Star Trek 25th Anniversary was developed by Interplay Productions, a well-known developer in the 1990s famous for creating narrative-driven games. However, the NES version of the game had a different team behind it. Konami, a powerhouse in the gaming industry, took on the task of creating a Star Trek experience that would fit within the technical limitations of the NES. The game was developed in tandem with other versions, notably the PC edition, which focused heavily on point-and-click adventure mechanics. However, the NES version leaned more into action platforming and combat, reflecting the style of games popular on Nintendo's console. This required a unique approach to the storyline and gameplay, ensuring that the game maintained the essence of Star Trek while appealing to NES players who were used to fast-paced, action-oriented titles. Development wasn't without its challenges, as translating a story-heavy and dialogue-driven property like Star Trek into an 8-bit format required sacrifices and compromises. The limited storage capacity of NES cartridges meant that much of the narrative detail and complex gameplay elements from other versions had to be streamlined. However, Konami sought to maintain the spirit of the series by focusing on familiar Star Trek themes such as exploration, diplomacy, and space combat. The NES version sticks closely to the feel of the original series, putting players in command of the USS Enterprise. The game's narrative follows Captain Kirk and his crew as they navigate a series of missions that involve exploring strange new worlds, facing down dangerous alien adversaries, and making decisions that could affect the fate of entire civilizations. The game's episodic structure mirrors the format of the original TV show, with each mission acting as a standalone episode. Missions typically start with a brief introduction from Starfleet Command, setting the stage for the adventure ahead. Players, taking on the role of Captain Kirk, can issue orders to key crew members like Spock, McCoy, and Scotty, each of whom brings their unique skills to the table. The game does its best to capture the ensemble dynamic of the original Star Trek crew, even if it's through simple dialogue boxes and 8-bit animations. One of the standout features of the game is its attention to the moral and ethical decisions that Star Trek is famous for. While the NES version is more combat-heavy, it still incorporates moments where players must make choices that reflect Star Trek's core values, such as diplomacy over aggression and scientific curiosity over conquest. The gameplay is a mix of side-scrolling exploration, puzzle solving, and combat, with each mission offering a combination of these elements. Much of the game is spent exploring various planets and alien environments, with Captain Kirk leading an away team to investigate anomalies, search for clues, or negotiate with alien species. These exploration segments often require players to solve simple puzzles, which can involve finding key items, interacting with environmental objects, or deciphering alien technology. These elements brought a light adventure feel to the game and encouraged a slower, more thoughtful approach to certain missions. Unlike its PC counterpart, the NES version incorporates side-scrolling platforming and combat sections. Players control Captain Kirk as he battles hostile aliens, navigates hazardous environments, and avoids traps. The controls are straightforward, with Kirk able to shoot his phaser and jump to avoid obstacles. Combat can be challenging, as enemies attack from multiple directions, and some sections require precise platforming. The game tries to balance action with exploration, offering a variety of scenarios to keep players engaged. True to the Star Trek spirit, space combat plays a key role in the game. Players take control of the USS Enterprise in top-down view as they navigate space, encountering hostile ships and defending the Federation from various threats. These segments focus on strategic combat, with players needing to manage the ship's shields, phasers, and torpedoes while maneuvering to get the best angle on enemy vessels. It's a simplified but effective way to capture the essence of Star Trek's ship-to-ship battles, even with the limitations of the NES hardware. The NES version is quite different from the versions released for PC, Macintosh, and other platforms. While the PC version leaned heavily into point-and-click mechanics and offered a deep narrative experience with voice acting from the original cast, the NES version simplified the story and focused more on action to cater to the console audience. Despite the hardware limitations, the NES version maintains a surprising level of authenticity to the Star Trek universe. The developers took care to include key phrases, character interactions, and the overall tone of the series. The mission briefings, although short, capture the essence of a Star Trek episode. In keeping with the spirit of the show, players often have to make choices that affect the outcome of missions. These choices aren't as complex as in modern games, but they reflect the Star Trek philosophy, where combat isn't always the best solution, and sometimes diplomacy and scientific inquiry are rewarded. While not as critically acclaimed as its PC counterpart, the NES version paved the way for more Star Trek games that attempted to balance action and story. The episodic nature of the game, with each mission feeling like a separate adventure, influenced later games in the franchise. The game features a catchy soundtrack that fans of the era often remember fondly. Although the NES was known for its hardware limitations in sound, the composers did an impressive job capturing the adventurous spirit of Star Trek. The game's music added to the atmosphere of exploration and danger, enhancing the overall experience. Over the years, the NES version of Star Trek 25th Anniversary has become something of a collector's item. It's considered a rare cartridge among NES collectors, particularly in good condition with its original box and manual. Bringing a franchise as dialogue-heavy and cerebral as Star Trek to a console like the NES was no easy task. The limitations of 8-bit hardware meant that the complex narratives and character interactions of the TV series had to be stripped down. Still, Konami did a commendable job of distilling the essence of Star Trek into an action-packed yet thoughtful game. They successfully captured the spirit of exploration and adventure while incorporating puzzles and combat that appealed to NES gamers. The development team had to balance fan expectations with the realities of the hardware. They created a game that was accessible to younger audiences while still staying true to the Star Trek legacy. The result was a game that might not have been the definitive Star Trek experience, but one that earned its place among NES classics for fans of both video games and science fiction. Star Trek 25th Anniversary for the NES is a fascinating blend of action and adventure, capturing the essence of the Star Trek series in a way that was approachable for NES players. It's a unique entry in the Star Trek video game legacy, offering a mix of exploration, combat, and storytelling that remains memorable to this day. While it might not have had the depth of other versions, the NES game remains a notable part of Star Trek's gaming history. It's a testament to the creativity of the developers who managed to bring the iconic sci-fi franchise to an 8-bit world, creating an experience that still resonates with fans and collectors alike. Whether you're a longtime Trekkie or a retro gaming enthusiast, Star Trek 25th Anniversary on the NES is a nostalgic journey through the final frontier worth taking.